What's going on? Welcome back. Let's make sure that audio works perfectly fine. Let's make sure the audio is good. Audio is perfectly fine. Welcome back. Welcome back. This is Ola coming to you live from my Empire Pro Studios, my Empire Pro live right here. Today, I want to get into a little bit more of a fundamental lesson on wholesaling. I call it wholesale real estate 101. And the idea of this is to really break this down to a little smaller pieces because I'm getting a lot of questions of people that say, hey, maybe sometimes I'm way too ahead of them, right? And they're still trying to understand the fundamentals of wholesale real estate as an investment strategy where you don't need money, you don't need credit, you don't need you don't need capital, you don't need a license. The fact that you could do it from anywhere in the world, yet we're talking about United States real estate, right? Being able to flip houses, but more precisely, flip contracts, purchase contracts on houses, and what does that look like at a very fundamental, basic level. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to do that first. Then we're going to dive into through the markets and see what's going on with the real estate market, maybe stock market, crypto market, and just have a good time hanging out here today. I'm paying attention to some of the things that's going on this YouTube platform. I'm paying attention to some data to really be able to serve you better. I'm looking at the content that engages you better, which tells me which one is actually the most valuable to you. And so I'm going to be making some adjustment. What I can tell you is that this live sessions on Monday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Is something that my data is showing me that you guys truly love. So I will continue to do that, especially when it comes to my perspective when it comes to comparing the stock market to real estate, and that how does that apply at the level we're talking about. See, one of my goals here is that I want to make this super simple, and there's a lot of things that we teach in this game that goes way over most people's head. We start to talk about sending mail, blasting out mail to 10,000 people, to what result, and like when are we going to get to the money, right? So we're going to break that down and make it simple. Without any further ado, let's get started. All right, so you can see my screen right now. Hopefully, let me just make sure. I know you still want to look at me. Let me make sure that you're able to see me clearly there. All right, good. So you can see my screen. I'm going to be using this little whiteboard right here to break down the whole thing into pieces. But before I do that, there is a software that I use for this whole thing. The software does all of the work, especially if you're looking for your first deal. My first deal paid me $10,000. Okay, it was supposed to be $20,000. I got paid $10,000 because I was bad at negotiations. And when we got to the closing, the gentleman that sold me the house was like, "You're making $20,000 off of me?" Like, nope. And I was so bad at negotiations, I panicked. I said, "You know what? I'll give you $10,000 more." And he said, "Yay!" And then we closed. And this was like a year after I had been working the business. But the goal of this class again is to hopefully you haven't spent a year on scrambling, on going all over the place. Hopefully, right? My goal is to make it super simple for you. There's only one thing you need is just the software. Okay, a couple of dollars for marketing. Okay, when I'm talking about 10 cents per record, and I'm talking about things in like $13, you're ready to go every single week. You just have to be consistent, and you'll close a deal. Okay, once you close a deal, then we can start talking about scaling things up, doubling down, and then making this once you close a deal, that pays for your marketing for a whole year. For me, it paid for my marketing for a whole year, plus I was able to buy a car. I was 26 years old at the time. This was 16 years ago. So but yeah, a lot has happened since then. So my goal here is to again share with you very simple, basic that you can go and run back and go start taking action. Okay, and then maybe another 6 weeks to 6 months from now, you say, hey, I've closed my first deal, I've closed my second deal, but I'm looking to scale up. I want to turn this to a full blown business. But the first thing first, let's get one deal done. But before we get one deal done, right, you need to understand what makes one deal. There are 5 stages to what creates one deal. And this is the part that a lot of the gurus tend to skip. And this is it: data, contact, leads, contract, and deals, right? If you don't get data, contact, leads, contract, and deals right, everything else will fail. Okay, if you don't get one stage and completely get it, you'll fail. The first stage or step is data, and that's what you Empire Big Data is how you access a free 7-day trial of the software, and you can play around with it the same way I'm going to show you today. You can play around with it and see for how easy it is, and then you can start taking some action, right? So that's the screen. It's called PropStream, but you can access the 7 days free trial at empirebigdata.com. If you get this wrong, everything else will be wrong. Okay, it's like a domino effect. Once you get this right, it creates a domino effect that everything becomes even a lot more easier. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Like today, I may just want to go to I think what's the main city in Iowa? Let me zoom into Iowa. Okay, Des Moines. So let's go into, this is the city we're gonna go into there. We're gonna use this as example today. Let's say that I don't know how to pronounce this, by the way. It's not a city that I work in, but you can see, is it Des Moines? How do you pronounce this? I don't know. Let's just call it Des M. Okay, Des M, Iowa, right? You can see that city exists in 3 different states: in Washington, in New Mexico, and there's a county in that same state with the same name. Let's just go there. Hey, here's the beauty about this: you don't have to know how to pronounce the name before you can make money in that city, right? You don't have to know how to pronounce the name before you can add value to that city. How is that, right? So we're going to be operating in this city. Again, this software is absolutely tried out for free for 7 days. How much is it after that? I don't know. They test different prices, but I know it's less than $100, whatever it is, right? They test different prices. So that's that right there. Now, with that being said, let me go back to breaking down what wholesale is at a very simple level, right? So first of all, you know that real estate, right, equals to houses, okay? Houses, buying and selling of houses, basically, right? Right? We know this part. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger to make it a little bit more fun, right? So we know that real estate is buying and selling of houses. It's a whole industry, right? It's literally how a lot of money move in this country. Significant amount of money move in this country on a regular, right? Let me just check something real quick. All right, so we do know that real estate, you should know that, okay? The US real estate industry includes about 350 companies with combined annual revenue of over $470 billion. Okay, so when we're talking here, this is real money that's exchanging hands, okay, that's moving on an annual basis in the United States. Okay, we're talking about US only. Okay, the business I'm about to show you, you can do it from anywhere in the world virtually. If you have a laptop, if you have a smartphone is necessary. Let's remove all the caps, right? A decent internet connection. Okay, so that's it right there. That's what we're talking about now. In terms of buying and selling, there are quite a few different types of professionals that are involved in a typical transaction from a traditional standpoint, right? So you have what you call agent, right? Real estate agents. Here in the United States, they're called realtors, right? Realtors is more so a trademark label for agents who are part of the National Association of Realtors, right? So there's some technicalities to that. Don't worry about it. We just call them realtors, right? The other side of things that nobody mostly talk about in the in the traditional real estate conversations is investors, right? Who are investors, right? These people basically they buy low and they sell high, right? But somewhere in between buying low and sell high, sometimes they fix the house, right? They fix the house, and sometimes it's a new construction, right? These are investors. Why? Because they invest money up front and they expect to make money on the back end. That's just the way this works, right? That's how they make money. 470 billion exchange hands. So without these guys, investors, actually these guys don't exist. These guys, realtors, the way they make money is sales commission, right? So you go to them, you say, hey, I have a house to sell. Can you list it on the MLS? It's called the multiple listing services, right? And then another agent brings a buyer, and then they sell the house and they make a percentage, typically between 2% and 6%, depending on the market, of the total sales price. So if the house sold for $400,000, if the agreed sales commission on the listing agreement was 2%, they could make 2 times 8. That's about $8,000 that they make from there. An average realtor makes less than $8,000 in a given year. Why? Because it's a business. A lot of people think it's a job, but it's actually a business that you have to spend money on marketing. Forget the money you spend on marketing. That's actually not the issue. It's about you have to be self-motivated, self-disciplined, and a lot of people join the game when they still have a job, and life happens, and things fall apart. So people make commissions, sales commissions too. They make that. But another part of it that's underground, still kind of underground, is becoming more popular. And because it's becoming more popular, there are regulations coming to play in different states to restrict people that are practicing this. I've been doing this for 16 years, right? So I started 16 years ago. And the truth is that the game has changed quite a bit because of some gurus, that have basically put on massive YouTube platforms where they're teaching it and everyone is joining. Now, here's the beauty about this, right? Don't think because everyone is joining that it's saturated. There is no such thing when you're talking about the ecosystem or the economy of any type of business. The cream always rises to the top. Okay? The question is, are you going to be the cream that always rises to the top? You get to decide that. How do you decide that? You become a perpetual student of the game, right? You understand it from this standpoint. You subscribe to this channel. You always keep coming back until you master it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So let's go back to the basics. Agents, realtors are the traditional. These are what you will call the traditional professionals in the game. All right, traditional pros, right? So like I was saying, the underground type of strategy that we're talking about right now, at one point they were called the Burdigs, right? But now things are becoming a little bit more sophisticated. In other words, you can make a lot more money. You can build a whole business out of this. You can build a multi-million-dollar business out of this, right? We'll call them the wholesalers. Okay. Now, we don't want you running around town calling yourself a wholesaler like a clown. As a matter of fact, a wholesaler is essentially an investor. Okay, they just so happen to invest time as opposed to invest money. So the traditional real estate investor is investing money to actually buy the property and fix the property. But here's the thing: these guys have what we call the luxury of. They have luxury of money, but not time. Okay, if you're getting started and you're learning this game, there's a good chance that you have more time than you have money, right? And the idea is that eventually you flip it. You have more money and you have less time. I know you're supposed, but the thing is that at least you have the option of buying time, freedom with the people you love the most, and spending your time the way you like to spend it, as opposed to a boss at some job that you don't like telling you how to spend your time. The idea is options, but let me just give it to you right now up front. The more successful you get, the less time you tend to have. Reality, but you just tend to also love what you do, so it doesn't feel like a job. So me coming here right now today to shoot this video and put out this value that literally hundreds of people will watch into the future, right? I enjoy doing it, right? Now on top of that, I get to continue to serve long after we finish this session and I go back to my family, right? So leverage, leverage, leverage is about leveraging the tools at our disposal to create the life we want. The same thing that's applicable here, right? So the underground pros that you probably haven't known, or maybe you did, right? But most people in the world still don't know. It's called the wholesalers. And what is it about? So instead of you investing money like a typical investor, you've got time. It may be a couple of dollars. You're going to spend a couple of dollars, $13 here and there, $12, $100 here and there, but it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt the bank. It's not your life savings, and you can potentially make $10,000 from one single deal. Right? All right. Excuse me. All right, so let's keep going here. So what is a wholesaler, right? So a wholesaler, the idea is they find deals, okay? They find deeply, let me put this properly, discounted deals. All right, what does this look like? Anything that's 65% of ARV. ARV stands for after repair value, right? Anything that's 65%, let's just make sure, okay, I think we're good. 65% of the after repair value, okay? I can show you what that looks like here. If you go to dealestimator.com, which is a simple tool that I created, it's free for the purpose of, so you guys can use it for free. It's called dealestimator.com. Start a new, let me just go here and make sure I show that, so in case you want to write that down. There you go. All right, good. So this is the tool right here. The idea is that we're paying 65% or less of the after repair value of any particular property. All right, so 65% of the after repair value. After repair. So typically, again, the idea is, first step, you're looking to find deeply discounted deals. Why? Because investors are always looking for it, but they don't have the time. You've got the time and a little bit of money, to be frank. There's still no money down. You don't have to spend your money on buying a property, but to market, to buy a few tools to make your life easier, yes, it will take a couple of dollars here and there, but it will make sense to you if you're making $10,000 per deal, right? Potentially or more. My average actually has been between $10,000 and $30,000. Okay. All right. So after repair value, all right, or less. Now we have to adjust this minus the estimated cost of repair. All right. So the property typically, like somebody that, unless somebody is crazy, they're not going to sell you a property that needs no work at a 65% discount. Or 35% off discount. They're not, no, like nobody in their right mind would do that, right? Unless they're extremely desperate. It's highly unlikely. But when the house needs work, let's say this house needs, so for example, this house, let's say this house is worth, let's use a real life example house. How's that, right? So we're going to go back to the software, okay? And here we are, right? I can tell based off my personal criteria. I have other videos that cover my personal criteria on this platform. Okay, if you need it, just let me know. I'll get it out to you. But I already pre-saved it. There are 17 properties in this city that fits my criteria. I'm going to click into this, and there are 17 properties that I need to absolutely go after the owners. What is it about this properties? These 17 properties. If I go under filter, here are the criteria. Residential, single family, up to 4 family houses. No homeowner association. I don't want condos, or at least not for the purpose of this, right? Not on the market. I don't want it already listed with a licensed agent on the market. I want to deal only directly, because I'm a wholesaler. I deal directly with the source, right? I'm looking for deeply discounted properties. I don't go to the market to find out. Once it's on the market, it's usually too late. It's already overpriced, or there's a situation of overbidding like a bidding war that will go on. I want to completely avoid all of that. That's what makes me a professional at this. I find deeply discounted properties for investors. Investors take over these properties from me and they pay me 5, 10, 20. My highest thus far is $82,000 from single one deal. Without touching the property, without fixing the property, basically coming in, right, sign a paperwork, reassign that paperwork, the right to that paperwork, the purchase contract, to another person entirely. And then, but hey, by the way, we structured it as what we call the double close. So I bought the house, within the next few minutes I sold the house. I made $82,000 spread in between, and it's legal all day. Okay, so let's keep it moving here. These are the criteria that I've used to do that. Notice of default, meaning the person is facing some kind of delinquency, default. They haven't paid their mortgage in usually at least 3 months. That's what that means, right? It's an individual, not a corporate, right? Some LLCs, corporations own properties. I'd rather just market out to people that are individuals, right? It doesn't mean you can't do a deal with people that are corporations that own a property, but I don't market to them. They're not the typical. Has active bankruptcy is suppressed. I don't want to see anything that has active bankruptcy. And then I want the estimated value of property to be between 100,000 and 500,000 because there's enough room and meat on the bone for me to make $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, right? If it's less than $100,000, there's no room to make money. Okay, there are other ways to do such deals, but the goal of this is to focus on where there's good chances for you to make some money, right? And then the last criteria is I like it to be 50% or more in equity, meaning they don't owe more than half of what the property is actually worth. Those are my criteria like that. That's what created these 17 properties, right? So if I go, let's just use this property for example, 3600 and we're gonna call this the property of the day. Okay, let's use this property right here, 3600 Indianola Avenue, right? We can tell up front that the estimated value of this property is 221, but we can also do a more in-depth with this software, more in-depth analysis. But we don't do that up front when you're looking for deeply discounted properties. We don't want to do any of that. Okay, but just a quick example, let's say I've done that, right, and I go under comparables and I see that off the bat I put 1 mile radius, right, and I can see that this property is worth potentially $180,000, right? So if you go back to this simple tool, the deal estimator, right, and I put 180 right here as the after repair value of this property, I could be off. There are other videos where I cover how to accurately value a property, but let's just say it's $180,000, right? And this person, I spoke to them on the phone, you know, after marketing, and they called me back, right? That means I contacted them and then it generated a lead. Let me show you what that looks like in the stages, right? So I established contact, stage 2. I initiated contact. They called me back, or they picked up the phone and they say, yes, I'm interested in the offer. That is a lead. Okay, that becomes a lead because of the interest, right? So just wanted to show you that in the stages really quickly. $180,000, and they told me it needs some work. It needs to be fixed up. So are you saying it needs like absolute work? We have to tear everything down? They said no, but I think it needs a new bathroom at least. And then I'll say, okay, I use my discretion. I say medium rehab, right? With this simple tool, it estimates about $27,000 based off of this. This is just my personal experiences over time. This number, it still needs to be scrutinized over time as we go, but this is good for estimate, right? And then the maximum allowable offer is now suggested starting off at $80,000, but I can't go over $90,000 to purchase this property. How did this work? Okay, 65% of 180 essentially. Okay, so 0.65, multiply that 180, right? Okay, wherever that is, right? We now have to subtract the estimated cost of repair, 27K from that. Okay, this is all estimate. and that number is approximately something like that, $90,000. So I cannot pay more than 90K for this property, right? If I'm able to find this deal and I negotiate, right, and then I write a purchase contract, like you do in any real estate transaction. A purchase contract, I have another video if you go into the archive of this channel where I cover the breakdown of the real estate contract, right? And I write a contract that says you have an obligation to sell me this property at $90,000 over the next 30 days. I can choose to buy this property within the clauses and all the agreements, all the different pieces of agreement, right? It's usually not a big deal. It's an as-is contract, right? Meaning they don't owe me a perfect property. They just owe me the obligation to sell me the property at this price. And I'll turn around and take that piece of paper, okay? So let's go really quickly. Let's go back to the steps. You're finding deeply discounted properties, right? You lock them up under a purchase contract, right? So that's the second step right there, right? And then what do? You assign, that's the step right there, assign the rights to purchase to an end buyer. Usually this end buyer is a cash buyer investor. Where do you find these people? You guessed it right, in the software, in the same software, right? So I know, let's say for example, this particular property, let's go back to the property. Let me put this in bullet for you to make it super simple. There you go. So step one, find deeply discounted deals, lock them up under a purchase contract, assign the right to purchase to an end buyer. I'm going to put step 4. This is the money part. In exchange for an assignment fee. Now, let me warn you up front. In a lot of states, a few states, okay, majority of the states are not doing this right now. It may catch up later, but it doesn't really matter. In a lot of states, they're starting to frown at this language, assignment, okay? But it's still assignment. It's just the way the contract will be, the deal will be structured that will be different. I always prefer double closing. If you're doing double closing, there are other videos where we'll cover that. If I have time, I'll cover it. If you're doing double closing as against assignment structure, when you're structuring the deal, let me just explain it, okay? Let's just go ahead and do that, okay? In exchange for an assignment fee, my maximum so far, like I said, has been 82K for one deal, okay? Outright walk away, $82,000, okay? Net profit. All right, so now with that being said, it's very important that I cover this. I think there's double closing, okay? There is assignment deals, okay? And it's at the end of the day is the same thing, but the difference is that for this one there are 2 transactions involved, okay? 2 transactions. You buy and sell, right? You buy and sell. One you're buying, the other one you're selling. One is the A to B transaction. The other one is the B to C transaction. You are the B. You purchased the property on the same table. You sold it on the same table within the next few minutes to somebody else, to a cash buyer investor. This is always legal, okay? The only thing that makes this illegal if there's a bank involved in a short sales or some kind of REO, real estate owned by the bank transactions, and they put a restriction that you cannot sell within the next 90 days or 6 months. They call it the deed restrictions, right? Sometimes they put that, but even a competent lawyer or closing agent will not let you close the deal anyway. So this is nothing for you as a wholesaler to typically worry about. When you have the contract, they'll tell you if you can resell it or not within the next few days or few minutes, right? But this is called the double closing because there are 2 transactions involved. The downside is that there are also two closing fees, set of closing fees, but I've done that so many times. I don't see what fees they are. They're typically under $2,000-$3,000, and you're making $10,000-$15,000. It doesn't matter. Remember, there are other professionals. The lawyers have to get paid. Appraisers have to get paid. The closing agent have to get paid. The mailing, whatever, all the different little fees that they have. The title people, the title insurers have to get paid. These are the details you don't have to worry about. This is the details that title companies worry about in the deal stage, okay, when it comes to deal disposition stage, right? But again, double closing will require something, right? In this time and age, back in the days, we didn't have to do this. They use the same money from the end buyer to do the two deals because the money is just passing ways anyway, right? But these days, they frown at that, right? So, but it's not a big deal. You can use what they call the transactional funding to fund the deal, to fund the first deal. So there are two transactions, right? Transactional funding, right? That's the solution right there. There are two transactions, right? You're buying a property for $90,000 from the actual original owner of the property, right? But you're also selling that property at $110,000, right, to a second person. Let me use my first deal as an example, right? So my first deal as an example, I got it under contract for $95,000. Okay, $95K. Okay, so you can see my rule of $100,000 it's not about what you purchase it for, it's about the value of the property, right? But then I was able to sell it at the end of it. I was able to sell it for 215. Sorry, 215. All right, so I had a $20,000 spread, right? So in an assignment deal, it would be the same transaction, basically. To be the same transaction, right? Just one transaction, and then I will simply make a $20,000 assignment fee, right? Is one transaction, one closing cost, one set of closing costs. You save money, but here's the problem. They are frowning at that, and the regulations are coming after this type of structure, okay? This is assignment deal, okay? This is a assignment deal, right? I'll put that right under here. This is assignment deals right here. But in a double closing, right? Instead of doing that, I buy it at $95,000. Okay, so from A to B, right? And then from B to C, I sell it at 215, right? Two different transactions, right? So I need $95,000 to take care of this. $95,000 to buy this. I need that cash. Back in the days, I didn't need to bring the actual cash. This person is bringing 215 anyway, right? Sorry, my numbers are off, by the way. There's a $20,000 spread. Sorry about that. 195. I got it for 195, right? 215, right? So 215, 195, right? Is it making sense? Hopefully, right? So 195 right here. I'm selling it for 215. This person, I already found the buyer. They're gonna bring their own cash. But why not use the same cash? Since I could just take my $20,000 and the same, because they want separate separate money identity to take care of the two transactions, since they are legally two transactions. So this is why the transactional funding guys come to the table. What they do is that they borrow you that 195 for a few minutes. They charge you what they call a 1 point. Okay, 1 point just means 1% of. It just means 1% of the total amount of money they are lending you. So for $200,000, 195, you're looking at about $2,000 for 1 point, right? But again, usually in this kind of transaction, I'm about to make $20,000, right? Okay, so in the closing cost for the first transaction, you can basically say part of doing business. At the closing, you don't have to come to cash. They will charge the transaction with 2 points. That's $2,000. So you're making $18,000. Okay, does that make sense? Now remember the story I told you in the beginning. When I got to the closing, the seller was not very happy because I was a newbie that was making 20 and I was bad at negotiating. I ended up making actually $10,000. But here's the difference, okay? This will be one transaction. This person is paying for it. In the same closing, they're paying you a fee. They don't like to see that fee unless you are a licensed agent. Okay? These days, the authorities don't like to see that. That's why you see all the regulations coming. Okay? So again, remember this is an underground strategy that is absolutely legal, but because it's becoming more popular, it's attracting regulations. And this is part of the things you encounter in the regulation. So I wanted to break that down really quickly for you so you can understand. So let's go back to the basics. You find deeply discounted deals. You lock them up under a purchase contract. You assign the right. This purchase contract gives you what they call the equitable right in the deal. Okay, and that's essentially what you're selling to an end buyer. Everyone is happy because this guy gets his 195. This guy gets a property. The after repair of this particular property was around 285, so they could potentially make over $100,000 on this deal, okay, for this actual particular property on Mon Avenue in Newark, New Jersey. Okay, all right, so that's wholesale 101 right there. So back to what I was showing you earlier. Let's go back here. All right, let me go ahead and share this ticker with you. That's everything that's scrolling at the bottom right there. That's access to everything you need to be successful with this game. But again, I'm giving you all the full game right now. You could go back right now and execute and start running this business very quickly. Okay, all right, so let's go back to the software and see how this works. All right, so remember this particular chart, right? This chart, I will always reference it. Data, contact, leads, contract, deals. Okay, so the first step is data, and that's the software. Okay, and the second step is contact, initiating contact, right? So right there, so for example, I'm gonna X out of this because again, if you look at this chart, right, there is no leads. Nobody has directly tell me they are open to an offer from me. So I'm not at stage 3, and I need to stay away from stage 3 until I get stage 1 right. Remember, it's a domino effect, and this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make in this game, right? They start to take care of stage 3, stage 4. They worry about LLCs, worry about what kind of contract before they figure out stage 1. It's not just in this business, it's in every business. I still struggle with this. Sometimes I have to remind myself. I say, hey, why you worry about solving a problem that doesn't exist? Solve the problem in front of you, and then you go to the step by step, and then by doing so, you're managing your resources, your time, and you're getting things done, as opposed to just over analyzing everything. So stage 1 is the first step in this process. Okay, all right, so now what does stage 1 look like for this market? So we're here. We have this 17 pieces of properties. I was able to access this from the data. I saved it. You can go ahead and do it manually. You can go ahead and use the pre-filtered. Remember this part. Let me just say, how do you find cash buyer investors, right? Okay, so I'm going to answer that question. Okay, but let me just go ahead and go through this really quick. That's a very important question that needs to be answered, right? All right, so you take this 17 pieces of property. Right now, I'm going to add it to a list, right? I'm going to create a new list. I'm going to call it Des Moines. Pardon me on the pronunciation. I have never encountered a situation where I have to pronounce this, so let's just call it Des M, Iowa. Well, let's just call it Iowa, right? AA, right? And I'm going to call it 11 points, right? Meaning these are the property that fits that. And dating conversion, I want to know when I saved this list, right? So I'm just going to call it 0124-2022. Your naming convention, it could be anything. Just make sure it's consistent so you can manage your data over time. Okay. I'm going to save this, right? And I'm not going into the details of each property because there's no need to do that. Okay, I don't have a lead yet. I need to treat every single piece of property as equal. So don't over put anything on the pedestal because it looks nice, right? So I'm going to go back to now. I'm going to go back to my properties, which is the database of all the lists I've saved, right? And we're going to go down to saved in alphabetical order. You can see this list right here. I just saved it. There's 17 pieces of property in it, right? Boom, right there. All right, and these are all the properties. And you can see they have mailing address. So what am I looking to do based off of these different stages, right? What am I looking to do? Remember that there are a few steps that's involved in finding these deals, right? So finding deals, locking them up under contract. Those two steps right there. If I go back here to this chart, right? You can see that the chart data, I already pulled data. I need to initiate contact, and then we get to leads, and then we'll lock it up under contract. So actual step 2 is all the way in stage 4. There's a few steps or stages between that, right? All right, so now if we go back really quickly to the software, I need to initiate contact, and there's a few ways you can initiate contact. If I select all, I like everything I'm looking at here. Why? Because I'm not putting any property on a pedestal yet. The only time I put a property on a pedestal is when I get response back from these homeowners. I'm looking to find deeply discounted properties by contacting potentially distressed homeowners, right? How do I know it's distressed? Because they're on a pre-foreclosure list, right? I know that part. They're on a pre-foreclosure list. That's why they ended up on my list of 17 properties, but they fit a few other criteria, right? So I can set up campaign in the software 2 different ways, okay? I can send a postcard campaign to them, all right? Or I can skip trace their phone numbers and their email addresses. The software does everything for you very cheaply, right? So I can send postcards directly to them. You just want to make sure that the postcards has your phone number on it and has direct instructions, right? You can send to 17 pieces of properties. I'm sending this small. I use the small one. Just use the small one. They're going to charge you 48 cents for each one. Okay, so let's just assume it's 50 cents, just to round up to make the numbers easy, right? 50 cents to 17 per, so 17 bucks divided by 2, right? So you're spending $8.50 on this to reach out to go after these 17 people that can potentially turn to deals, right? So your phone number is on it. So when they call you, they become a lead, and then you say, good, I'm an investor, I'm looking to buy properties in your neighborhood. So tell me a little bit about the property. They tell you, so okay, great. Just so you know, I'm an investor, so I don't pay full price. Well, we can close these deals within the next 10 to 15 days, all cash, right? Do you have the cash? No, you don't. You know people that have all the cash. How do I know? Because you have access to the software that gives you access to all of the cash buyers in that neighborhood, right? And your job is to find them deals, and they'll pay you all day long for doing that, okay? So that's one way, postcards, right? Let's go back to close here. There are actually 3 ways in the software to run campaign. You can do postcards, you can send voicemails, you can do email marketing, but also you can do text messages. How long is it going to take you to send text message? Remember, you skip traced, right? The skip tracing will allow you to be able to run a voicemail campaign or text message campaign through these people, right? The skip tracing will pull their email address as well, right? So let me go back and go back to the property list, and let's go back to here again. This list right here, select this, new campaign. The other option is skip tracing, which gives you access to their phone number and their email addresses. The email addresses, 50% of them are going to be bad. It is what it is. It's a numbers game, right? For 10 cents per record. So how much is 10 cents multiplied by 17, right? So again, remember I said a couple of dollars here and there, a couple of dollars, right? So you just got to be consistent. The consistency is bigger than you trying to compete with gurus and sending 2,000 pieces of postcard. No. If you do that, you're going to burn yourself up and get frustrated out of the business too soon. But if you're consistent, you will hit. If you use the criteria I just showed you earlier, right, you will hit at some point. Then you can scale up. You're strategic about how you grow, as opposed to trying to grow too fast and then you crash and burn. As opposed to being an airplane and you're trying to act like you're a rocket, like a space rocket. You're not a space rocket. You need a runway. You need to move easy, right? And then consistency over time, and then the whole thing will carry itself within the next 6 months. Okay, so that's it right there. So 10 cents multiplied by, how much is 10 cents multiplied by? I'm having a hard time doing the math. 1, 2. It looks like it's what, $1.70, something like that, right? Yeah, about $1.70. That will cost you to pull these people's data, and then you reach out to them. Remember, you're initiating contact. Okay, you're initiating contact. We're still on stage 2. Now, when these people reach out back to you, they become a lead, and then you negotiate, then you write a contract, and then you find a buyer. How do you find a buyer? Let's talk about finding a buyer. All right. Finding a buyer. All right, so if I go back to the search, right, where I pulled the search in the first place, you see here it's showing me that there are 6,000 cash buyers in this particular neighborhood. Okay, now granted, many of them are probably not active in the game, but let's click into this anyway, right? I can see this. I can go under filter, and I can easily go and go under ownership info. I want sales that happened only in the last 1 year. Boom, I put it January 2021, and then I'll close this. Let me see. So when I put that ownership, yeah, that didn't save. January 2021, and then I have to pick a date to save it. There you go. So you can see that criteria is saved there. When I close this, you see 6,000 particular properties that was exchanged as a cash transaction. That's narrowed down to 358. If I click into this, right, I can see the information of the actual company that purchased this property. I can literally start with Google and start looking for these people. They can potentially purchase a purchase contract from me. If I lock up a contract, they're willing to take over, because they're investors typically. So this is one way. You can look at the cash sale over here. There was a cash sale that happened in July 2021 at 150, right? They purchased this property for 150. That's just one example. I'm not going to put anything on the pedestal. Again, I will select all. I can save and skip trace and find these buyers and potentially sell my deals to them. Okay, now the fastest and a really quick way to get access to even bigger list of buyers is this one right here called the Flipper Agents. If you don't see it on your brand new account, it's under here, and you just want to go here and go under Flippers, right? But let me just go ahead and click Flipper Agent in this neighborhood, only in this city rather, right? All of these properties have been flipped. These are flips that happen within a short period of time and represented by agents. So the contact that you have in each one of this is actually the agents. So if I click into this one, I can go under the cash transaction. If I go under MLS details, I can scroll down and I can see the agent who actually represented this cash buyer with their phone number. So if I have a deal in hand, right? Let's do this really quickly. If I have a deal in my hands that I need to sell, right? I already have a contract, stage 4. Now I'm trying to do the deal. All I have to do is reach out to this agent and say, hey, I have a deal that I'm seeing that you represented a transaction at 2418 49th place on not too long ago, a deal that closed. Yes. All right, good. I was wondering if you're open to. I have a deal that I don't think I want to execute. I want to see if your cash buyer will be interested in it. I'll pay full commission, right? Now that always sound like music to the ears of agents, okay? And potentially you can close a $20,000-$30,000 deal like that. Okay. Now the other side of things is that you can absolutely, if you have a contract that you locked up and you don't know what to do with it, you can submit that to my empirepro.com/submit, and we'll be happy to make money together with you in helping you with the last stage, which is the most important stage because it's the money stage, essentially the deal disposition stage. Okay. All right, so that was that right there. Today I want to keep it really that simple. Okay, I don't want to overcomplicate it. What I want you to do, okay, I'm going to leave that on the screen for a second. Okay, what I want you to do is actually very, very simple. I want you to go ahead. Okay, I want you to go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to this channel. I have a lot more of this information coming. Okay, share it, but let me know what you think. Okay, I want to hear your comments below, your questions. Okay, and I want to serve a little bit more, but I want to hear from you so I can know what you're missing. Everything absolutely for free. Okay, don't forget to download the book, and peace.